Tonight we're going to be talking with the founders of WeScreenplay.com. I'd like to take this time to introduce the two co-founders, Scott Lowry and Mark Stasenko. And what I'd like to do right now is go ahead and ask Scott, why did you decide to found WeScreenplay?
Sure. So first of all, thanks for having us on. So it all got started a few years ago. I'm actually a software developer, and I was living on the East Coast doing nothing that had to do anything with Hollywood. And Mark, on the other hand, was out here. He's a writer, and he had been passing his screenplays to a couple friends who were doing reads on them and providing coverage. And a couple of his friends heard that he was getting really good notes from these other friends. So they asked if Mark would pass the scripts along to these producer friends. And so he started doing this for his friends, and it became, he started doing it to the point where it sort of became a business idea for Mark. Not so much a business idea, but he just wanted some way to streamline the whole process. So he called me up and he said, "Can you build me a website that'll do this?" So I set him up a really, really simple website. And actually, to our surprise, within a few weeks, people somehow found it and were submitting scripts, and we were passing them along. And so a few months went by, and it was great for me. I wasn't doing anything. And but Mark, on the other hand, was swamped because we were selling coverages, 5 pages of notes for $65, turning it around in 48 hours at the time. And Mark, even though he wasn't doing any of the coverage necessarily, we were swamped with so many coverages and him coordinating, passing the scripts to the readers and back from the readers to the writers. So he called me up. He said, "Scott, I think we need to raise the prices. It's just too much work for me. So we either need to raise the prices so that less people buy coverage from us, because it's just supply and demand. If you raise the price, fewer people are gonna buy it. And I need to, all this time I'm spending, I need to, I need to make some money, like spending hours a day coordinating this." So I said, "Well, show me what you're actually doing that is taking up so much time." So he sort of walked me through, the script comes to me, I have to email it to the reader. I have to email all the readers and say, "Can anyone take this script?" The one reader responds and says, "I can take it." Simultaneously, another reader responds. So Mark has to tell the second reader that the other reader got it, and so on. It's complicated. So over the course of the next year, we built out this some software that basically did all of this for us. So a script comes in. And actually, what's unique to our platform is we don't assign it to any readers. Readers can claim the script. Now, unless there are special requests, in which case we designate it to a pool of readers or to a specific readers. Everything's automated. The only part that a human does behind the scenes at WeScreenplay is actually read the screenplay and provide coverage on it. And as a result, that's let us keep our pricing where it is. So we've never raised it $1 since we started. It's still $65 for 5 pages of notes, and we intend to keep it that way for as long as we can. I think that's really been our competitive advantage just moving forward, is not only the fact that we can keep our price down, but that we have this whole system that automates us, which lets us tap into some other cool features that other companies aren't able to offer. We're tracking a lot of data on these scripts and the scores and so on, which I think we're going to get into later.
That's exactly right. So Mark, do you want to talk for a few minutes about, you actually are a screenwriter, so do you want to talk for a few minutes about why you think the notes are important, and why getting feedback from a reader is different than getting feedback from an instructor or from friends and family or from just random people in the industry?
Right, yeah. Nothing is quite as valuable as a blind read from someone who doesn't care about you. That's because at the end of the day, if you're trying to sell a script or if you're trying to get an audience to come to a movie, the people who are going to pay the money or pass that script up the chain are people who don't care about you. And so that's ultimately who matters. And it's great when friends read scripts. It's so nice of them, and sometimes they do have great notes. And the same is true about instructors and people invested in your success. It's all helpful and can be good. But at the end of the day, you need to find out how the script is perceived from somebody who doesn't know you, doesn't care about you, doesn't have any vested interest in the story. And that's what coverage provides. We were talking briefly a few minutes ago about this, but I'd been studying writing for years and had like 5 screenplays under my belt, and had entered a couple contests and not done particularly well before I finally was like, you know what, I'll try coverage. And I tried coverage. I paid like $120 somewhere, and like figured out this is a huge waste of $120, and got the notes back. And it was just 3 pages of notes, and there wasn't all that much in it, but it really it changed the way I felt about my writing. I realized that, I just realized all these things that people had been saying were good were not that good, and there were ideas provided for characters and showing backstory that I just hadn't thought of before, and it changed the way I was writing. And my next screenplay went on to be a quarterfinalist in the Nickel Fellowship. And it's just because I think I started approaching writing a little bit differently. So I think there's a really great value in blind reads, and $120 was worth it for me. But if you can do it for $65, it's even more worth it. You just need somebody who is blindly reading it to really understand what a reader at the studio level or a reader in an agency or management company is going to be thinking when they're reading your script.
People that are providing the notes have a solid understanding of character and have a solid understanding of structure, and that their notes reflect that. So you're not just dealing with somebody who's giving you the kind of random notes that you might get from somebody who never read a screenplay ever in their whole life. You're getting very informed notes. The other, and I think I'd like to hear sort of how you learn more about how you find your readers. The second thing I'd like to get some information about is what kind of screenplays you actually provide coverage for. Do you provide for television pilots or just for feature films, or what kind of content do you actually read? And I guess we should let Scott talk because he doesn't have static.
Sure. So in terms of hiring readers, they usually come by word of mouth. In the beginning, like I mentioned, they were people Mark knew through his close personal network. But it turns out there's a lot of people who want to be readers. But we are extremely selective. We get a lot of applicants. We probably only accept about 10% right now. The minimum requirement is at least 1 year. I think I can't think of any readers with less than 3 years off the top of my head right now. Some of them work for HBO, Netflix. There's some pretty good names in there. And we also, of course, vet them. So we have them do a few sample coverages. We sort of keep them on a tight leash in the beginning, and double check all of their coverages before we actually return them to customers. And we have had cases where we've had to let readers go right off the bat, and we keep very detailed metrics on on our reader performance. So if a reader is not, we're constantly collecting feedback from the writers on the coverage, and if those scores are low, along with some other metrics we keep, such as did the customer come back, or did the writer come back to WeScreenplay after this reader covered the script, or is this reader being requested on future reads, then we keep an eye on that, and sometimes we'll add on new readers and sort of decrease the amount of scripts that we send that person's way.
I have one thing to add on that. Just that all of our readers have covered my scripts without knowing it. So that's also a nice way that we kind of make sure that everyone's doing a good job. I put one of my scripts into the system and it gets picked up, and so I get to actually read the coverage and experience it as a writer. And so that's also a nice way that we more informally, but help vet our readers to make sure that everyone's doing a good job. Sorry, I forget the second part of the question.
I remember the second part.
Oh, you remember? Go ahead. Good. One of us does.
Yeah. So the topic was what types of content do we see? So the TV features. In the beginning, it was mostly features. Now we see, I'd say, 30 or 40% television scripts.
Mm-hmm.
Partially that's because we were getting a lot of requests for television scripts, so we made it more clear on our website that we do cover those. But at the same time, it took us some time to build up readers who could cover those types of scripts. Also because there are just more features, I think, written out there every year. But television is hot right now, so there are a lot of people who want to be television writers that are submitting. We do accept web series and shorts in one of our contests called Diverse Voices. But other than that, WISC, which is our main contest, that's feature only, and we have a television contest called WeTV, and obviously that's television only. So.
So can you tell me, you mentioned special requests, and I think one of the things I talked to Mark about when I called him on the phone was that I'm a writer-producer, and actually a lot of people in my events are writer-producers, and we have a sort of a very specific need that's different from most people because we are going to be producing the content ourselves. And one of the things that I'd mentioned to you is that it's nice to be able to say, I want to receive a specific kind of coverage. Like if you had writer producers that were readers, and I could say, do you have any writer producers that are readers? Those kind of special requests, being able to ask you for special requests is a kind of a cool thing. And I know that's not something you do all the time, but I think it's a very handy thing to be able to offer. If a producer brings you 35 scripts and they go, I really care what people think between the ages of 18 and 35, 18 and 25 or 18 and 30, they're looking for a very specific kind of feedback. And it is true that 18 to 35-year-old girls probably don't have exactly the same kind of interest as 18 to 35-year-old boys. Right. So market testing, being able to send you guys I know you guys don't do it all of the time, but it's interesting that you guys have the capacity because you have so many readers to be able to provide coverage for television.
Right. And we are planning on rolling a feature like that out very soon, in the coming months, if not the next month. Maybe not as specific as age yet, but definitely for different crafts. So directors, or if you want you want readers who are writers, you want readers who are actors, or a certain gender. So I
realize you probably have to charge more for it, which kind of breaks the whole rule of $65 a pop. But on the other hand, I think if you're looking for specific feedback, I think there's nobody else that's really providing any kind of solution that's remotely like that. As you know, it's kind of but there's not anybody really doing what you're doing across the board. So, in terms of being able to provide such a wide variety of coverage from such a wide variety of readers,
Right, and it's not something that we want to raise the price on. It's the problem is when let's say we have a reader pool that's just actors, and that's only 10% of our readers. That means that when a script comes through, it's possible that none of those readers who are actors, so none of those, let's say 5 to 10 readers, are able to claim the script right then and have it back to you within 72 hours. And in our system, it's kind of like Uber. We have surge pricing. So the more demand there is, and as it gets closer to the due date, the more we offer to pay our readers. So any money that we would have to charge you additional to specify a group like that, it would hopefully it would end up all in the readers' pockets. But that is why we have to do it.
Well, and I think it's fair. I mean, I think if you're saying I like to get feedback from five filmmakers, that's a different thing, right? I mean, that's a different kind of that's people with specific expertise in producing film and with produced credits. Or if you want to get actor feedback, that's a different market than average readers. But the point is that I don't know anybody else that will do that. And the other thing is, you guys offer. I think I've used, the reason I found you is because I was looking for coverage. And so I found your site, and you were the only ones that would let me go ahead and say, I want to submit this once, and I want 5, I think I want three people to give me feedback on it. And I think I've gotten 9 feedbacks from you so far. So, and it was just because it was so easy to actually request multiple people to read a script, and because I knew you had such a big pool to choose from. So it wasn't like I was getting the same coverage I wasn't getting somebody pretending to be 3 different people. I was getting really, you tag all of the people that are reading the work, you know?
Right.
And the fact that and I think you just mentioned that you were adding bios and metrics now to the feedback. So do you want to talk just a little bit about that as well?
Sure, yeah. So first of all, at the end of each coverage now we include a reader bio. So some of their work history, educational history, their favorite movies, television shows, just to give you a little bit of context about that coverage and about the reader. We also, we are tracking scores in a different way now. So before a reader we ask for a 1 through 10 score for 5 or 6 categories, actually like 7 or 8 categories on coverage. And before customer writers would get that feedback, those scores back, and they wouldn't really mean anything from coverage to coverage, because one reader might really like scripts and have a 7 out of 10 average, and another reader might be a little bit more negative and only have a 4 out of 10. So it's kind of hard to track it from script to script. So what we started doing was actually normalizing those scores around a curve internally, and then using that score to calculate a percentile for that script that normalizes on reader bias or normalizes it out of the equation. So now, and you can actually track those scores in your coverage. You'll see it in the last page and on our user dashboard. And those numbers, they're weighted based on how that reader rated those categories. So I'm sorry, I'm being unclear. So basically, each category, one reader might be a little bit more bullish on, let's say, dialogue, and a little bit more negative on another category. We even normalize for individual categories.
Wow.
So that data is also really useful for us for contests. Mm-hmm. So like I said before, one script might have gotten a really good reader or an easy reader, and then moved on, even though that script wasn't as good as another script that had a really tough reader. So now, because we're able to normalize that, it makes it much easier for us to advance the scripts fairly in our contests.
Which I think is really important. I mentioned it, so for those that are listening, Mark and Scott, have the platform that they created that they use for WeScreenplay. They actually have made it available for people to run contests on, and they themselves run contests as well. So people hire them and use their platform to actually run contests. And if you think about it, whenever people are submitting stuff to a contest, and it has to move up through the ranks a script has to move up through the ranks to win. What happens if the screenplay gets read by 3, for some reason statistically it gets all the easy readers? It's going to make it so that the winner of the competition isn't the best script, it's just the guy that got all the easy readers. Mm-hmm. So their platform now accounts for that, which makes it really unique. It really makes it so that it's a much more fair and much more unbiased way to judge whether or not a screenplay is good,
Yeah, and it's not just for the writers that we do that either. We have a vested interest in making sure that the scripts that win our contests are the best scripts, because we want success stories from our contests. So that was a big part of it too. I mean, we realized it would benefit the writers just as much as it would benefit us.
So we're pushing out the top. For WISC, we're pushing out the top 5 scripts to our list of industry contacts, to producers who have requested first looks at these winners. And so, so like Scott said, we want to make sure that the winners are something that when we send it to these producers, we're super proud of. And the normalization has really been working. The scripts that are rising to the top are blowing us away. The scripts that we're really excited to send to the producers and managers who've requested them.
Right. Well, and I anticipate that what will end up happening is agencies will start hiring you guys to just either the team that does their reading, because right now everybody's hiring people and they don't have the platform required to normalize. And so they'll probably just start working with you to do that service, so that it's something that they too know is objective. And also, particularly as you guys start making it so that they can say, this particular script is for 18 to 25-year-old, or 15. Because I'm just trying to say stuff like some of those girl movies. Do you know what I mean? Like Ella Enchanted. I don't know. That's a specific target market. It likes a specific thing, and you really need people that are in tune with them. Because, I think you and I and most other people are going to say, this is like two. I hate this thing. I never want to see this movie. But
Right.
and I think that being able to say, look, I want feedback for people who actually like this kind of thing, or people who are at least in this demographic, so that they understand the references that are being made. Because that's the other thing that happens is when you're talking, it's just there are demographics that baby boomers have different references, and if you're feeding scripts to people that aren't baby boomers and you want to get the notion of market feedback or whether or not the references work, it'd be better to have baby boomers reading it because they'll know what all the Nixon jokes are about, right? What? All right, so the other, what I'd like to do now is, if you guys don't mind, I'd like to have you guys sort of walk through your platform and sort of maybe walk through your coverage and let people see the bios and the scoring and so forth, so that they know what we're talking about. So I think one of you is going to share your screen.
Yep.
Right.
Okay, can you see it?
Yeah, and what I think I'm going to try to do is hide the thing on the, see if there's a way I can hide that, at least it will make it smaller or something.
What this, my videos, and my video on the desktop, I can minimize.
I think if you go to the top, it says more, and I think there's an option that lets you hide the videos.
Yeah, I think I just hit it.
Okay, cool.
Did that work?
I think so.
Okay. All right. So this is the WeScreenplay website. So this is our homepage. I'm just real quick gonna walk through the checkout form here. So you would come over to our coverage page, choose. We have one of three. We have 3 packages: basic, full, premium. In this case, let's just do a basic, which is just 5 pages for $65. Now, this part's pretty straightforward with my contact information. But this turnaround time bit here, you can actually choose to have it back to you in 24 hours. And the cost goes up 75%. So in this case, that would come out to $113. In this case, normally our standard is 72 hours. Because it's a holiday weekend with the 4th of July coming up, we give our readers an extra 24 hours. Here you would just enter your title, you choose your format, just so the reader understands what they're reading, and so we can assign it properly. You choose your genre, so we have, so that the reader can choose which genres. Certain readers have preferences for certain genres. Also, it's just good data for us to have. Page count. You can add a comment for the reader if you want to add a log line, or ask the reader to focus on a specific aspect of that screenplay, then you can add it here. And then you choose your script. And then this is the final step. You can choose up to 5 readers. You save $5 per additional reader that you select. So in this case, let's say we want 3 readers. You can see the price went up to $185. Mm-hmm. You can also select a specific analyst. So these are some of our analysts that are live right now. So if, let's say, you really like analyst Fafa, you can choose that. It'll add an extra $15 because the reader obviously is forced to claim that script and do it within the next 72 hours. So we have to pass that along. And then you check out. Now, once you have, so you wait 72 hours. Usually we have it back quicker than that. We email you the coverage or the coverages if you bought multiple. And then you have a dashboard where you can log into on our website and keep track of all this stuff. In this case, I'm logged in as Mark. You can see he's purchased 33 coverages, so he's used the service quite a bit. And you can actually download the coverages through this dashboard, as well as, this is what I was talking about earlier, see your percentile. So Mark's apparently a pretty good writer. He's up here for this script Vice at 95th percentile. You can also download the coverages here, download the scripts. If you're in the contest, you can view your scores. So this is an example. Mark's not actually in our contest, but just for demo purposes, I dropped him in here. So he can track how he's doing the contest, view his scores, and the breakdown. and whether or not he's still alive. You can also ask follow-up questions on your coverage. This is actually a feature we just launched last week. So if you get a coverage back and you have some more questions within 3 weeks, you're able to ask as many questions as you want for $29, and the reader will get back to you with 1 page of answers. You can also re-upload the latest draft for that script. So if you're in a contest but you make changes to it, you go ahead and upload the modified version. I'm going to download a coverage here.
So can I just ask a question, because this is just kind of interesting.
Yeah.
So he's in the 95th percentile, but he has several passes. So I mean, that's kind of both comforting and terrifying.
Yeah, I mean, this one I just clicked on is 89th percentile as a pass. I think our recommend rate is like the top 2 or 3% or something. Considers like the next 5% after that. I don't.
So people shouldn't feel bad if they don't get recommend, because it's like 2%.
It's really hard to get a recommend. I mean, I looked at it today. I think all time we've had like 40 recommends or something. And we've had more than that, but certain users get recommended, certain writers get recommended multiple times. So I'm not sure the exact stats, but it's pretty hard. The large majority of our scripts get passed on. So here's an example of a coverage for this script, Vice, that Mark wrote. So this is I believe it's a basic, and there's lots of different sections here. So there's a section on structure, format, dialogue, concept, marketability. And at the bottom here, we have all these scripts that I was talking about. So you can see for plot, Mark out was 97th percentile, but his format wasn't so hot. Mark, I guess you got to work on your formatting skills a little bit. And your dialogue was only 35th percentile for this reader. So.
And who is this person? we must find them. So.
And then here's the reader bio below that. So this analyst happens to be a WGA member with quite a bit of experience, as well as her favorite movies and favorite genres. So yeah, this is a pretty standard coverage. We have more in-depth coverages. We have something called a premium coverage, where you can actually get in-page notes on your script. So a few notes per page, actually in the PDF, for $195.
Cool, and that's per person. That's per person. So
right, per reader. Right. But yeah, so that's pretty much it for the demo. So I'm gonna unshare my screen here.
Cool, and make us visible again.
Let me see if there are any.
Is there anything else you wanted to add, Mark?
Yeah, so I think one thing I get asked a lot is about the requesting the readers. If you keep the title of your script the same, the system automatically assigns it to a new reader every time. So you'll always get fresh feedback unless you want the same reader over and over again. So that's one helpful thing to know. Also, when it comes to the pass, consider, recommend rate, we consider between the top 5 and 10% of scripts, and you can kind of see that real time here. I got considered when I was in the 93rd and 95th percentile, but not when I was in the 89th percentile. So it's about the top 5 to 10%. And then, like Scott said, the recommends are about the top 1 or 2%. So it's really difficult to get a recommend. Passes really shouldn't be discouraging. It doesn't mean the script is bad at all. It just means that there's a little bit more work to do. So those are the 2 big things. I think Scott hit on most of the other important things.
Well, and actually, when I was looking again, because I'm a writer producer, when I'm looking at the feedback, I really, whether or not other people like it in terms of pass, consider, recommend. I'm not interested in the summary judgment. I'm interested in what the notes are, because if 3 readers or 6 readers come back and they go, this character, they all have problems with a particular character, then I know that character's got problems and I have to fix it. If I get 2 people saying that hating a character and one person who truly loves it, then I know I have to go look at the character and figure out why it's not playing for that one reader. So right. It's really the important data is knowing what the data is important, all of the data is important, not just this sort of it isn't like an English paper where you pass if you get an A. You know, it's like somebody's actually going to make this here movie. You know, so it actually has to be a good. There's a lot more nuance involved in that prospect. And frankly, we all have movies we totally and completely loathe, you know, that have done really well in the marketplace. I mean, I think Clockwork Orange is a total work of art, and I won't sit through that movie for 2 minutes. So it's just too upsetting. So doesn't mean it's not good, and people can still hate stuff that's really good. They just don't like it, you know.
Right. I think that's a really good point. I mean, when we originally designed the coverage, and what I was really looking for as a writer was the ability to get 3 opinions at a budget that I could afford as a writer, and so a lot of places, you know, it's 150 or $200 for one opinion, and you can go to script doctors and specialists and things like that who will charge up to $1,000 for a set of notes. And a lot of these script doctors have great resumes and have a lot of experience, and that's amazing. But at the end of the day, there are some people who give The Godfather a thumbs down. There are some people who give Star Wars a thumbs down. There are just some, you know, if anybody had all the answers, no movie would ever flop. Mm-hmm. And so no matter how experienced somebody is, they may not have the perfect answer to everything. So I think it's more, for me, it's been more valuable to my writing to get, you know, like you said, Nancy, 3 opinions and cross-reference them, find what they all agree on, than it has been to just get one, you know, expensive opinion.
Right, and also the other thing is you got the feedback actually tells you what's working as well as what's not working, which I think is really critical. I mean, in the past I've edited for people and I've written for people, and if you don't tell people what's working, what happens is they change it. So somebody might have a distinct voice. They may have done something kind of different, but you love it, kind of like a Little Miss Sunshine or a Juno thing. It's got it'll have slang, it'll break a set of rules that everybody thinks they know, and you'll get a reader who hates that. And then you'll get 2 readers that love it. Well, the 2 readers that love it say, I love it. Then you go, God, you know, it works for these people. And they really, on a scale of 1 to 10, they love it a lot. I mean, they really, truly love it. So if somebody else says, well, I don't think, you know, if one of the readers says, well, I don't like it. Well, yeah, but these other guys like it a hell of a lot. And that means that that's probably going to be that film's draw, right? I mean, a lot of people, if they'd read the script for Juno or for Little Miss Sunshine, they might have said, you know, a lot of readers would have really loved it, but there would have been a few that truly hated it, and they would have said, you're breaking the rules because you're you know, they would have pointed out the fact that they used slang in Juno that not everybody knew, right. You know, or you know, because it's true.
The voices of all the characters were the same.
Yes, well, but you know, that's why you need to get coverage from multiple people. It's just, right. Exactly. And the question is how easy or how hard it is, you know. Exactly. The other thing your site's useful for is if somebody requests your screenplay and so when you're going through the development process with a producer, a lot of times they'll say to you, okay, I love your screenplay, but I want you to make X, Y, and Z changes. So then you make those changes. Well, you could send it directly back to the producer, but are you sure you don't want to just go ahead and get it read first before you send it back to the producer, so that you have some confidence that what the changes that you've made still make the whole piece work? Right. So I think it's good for projects that are in development. Can you go ahead and sort of talk for a little bit about the why coverage is important for people that are seeking distribution for their project?
Right. We ask our readers to. So we've got coming up on 50 readers with tons of different experience. Scott mentioned some of it, but we have everyone from NBC, 20th Century, Sony. We have a reader who has sold a script to Sony, HBO, Netflix. So a broad range of perspectives. We also have a broad range of experiences, life experience, demographics, everything. So there's a broad range of interest and experiences coming from the readers when they're looking at a script. So we ask in the concept section, and then in what we call a marketability section, for the readers to kind of dive into a little bit about how they feel this would land in their experience. So is this a project that would work great as a TV movie, which is some feedback but I actually got from multiple readers on the script that, you saw most recently, that this would work great as an HBO TV movie because it's got kind of this political thing. So it's in the vein of Game Change or All the Way, or one of these things that HBO has done really successfully. I've also seen TV shows that they recommend, this is a show that has to be pitched to a Netflix, HBO, or Showtime because of the, the adult nature of it and kind of the adult themes at play. And so the readers are, we try to stay relatively broad because different people are looking for different things. Some people want to produce it themselves. Some people are just looking at it as a writing sample. But the readers are asked to kind of keep that in mind, especially in the concept section and marketability section. And like Scott pointed out when he was going through the checkout page, you can leave a comment. So a lot of times what people leave there are their intent with the script. So if they're saying this is a script that I want to, eventually sell on spec, then that's what that's how the reader's reading it. Or this is a script that I want to independently produce, or I'm just using this as a writing sample to get in the room. So that little bit of information can be helpful to provide in that comment section, and the readers will kind of comment, accordingly. They know what to look for. If it's a writing sample to use just to get in the room, well, then we're looking for the biggest, most creative, wild things we can, the things that really stand out and show your writing chops. Budget be damned. If this is something you're going to independently produce, then we've got to look at ways to keep the budget down, and if there are certain scenes that could be maybe condensed to help that out. So the readers will take that into account, and they've got a lot of experience in all those spaces.
That's really cool. Also, if let's say somebody, as happens and whenever you're doing anything, let's say you have a reader and this happens all the time in real life, and there's really no recovery, but you guys actually can provide solutions for this kind of problem. But what if somebody gets the notes back from the reader and it's like they had 2 or 3 people read it, but one of the readers, it's like they're reading a different screenplay, or their notes are just like factually incorrect. Like they say somebody who's the boyfriend, they're saying, well, the boyfriend, I don't believe the relationship between the boyfriend and the protagonist. And you go, well, that's because it's her brother. So that's a thing.
Right.
So that kind of thing, they can actually, you guys have a quality control solution which allows them, and I think you even followed up with me. I think you sent an email to me after I had coverage all the times asking me, was I happy with the coverage? So you guys are very aggressive when it comes to ensuring people are getting the coverage they want.
Right. We ask everyone for feedback on every read they get, just so that helps us track our readers to make sure all our readers are consistently providing actionable, valuable feedback. And to make sure that our customers are happy and are getting coverage that's going to make their writing better. Ultimately, we believe that better writing leads to better movies, and better movies are good for everyone. And so we want to make sure that the coverage is, moving the project in that direction. So the quality control is pretty consistent, or it is consistent with every script. And if there ever isn't, it's very rare that there's actually an issue. But if there ever is an issue, we do everything we can to rectify it, whether that's a new read or whatever the issue may be.
And if you end up rating one of our readers with a 1, which means you didn't find the coverage valuable at all, we automatically blacklist that reader from you, so you don't end up ever getting that reader again.
That's really good to know. So I'm sure someone's going to ask this, so I'm going to ask it up front. So let's say that we have, and I think we have 32 people on the call, and after if I make this available after, with your permission to folks, we're going to have people asking, I think I'd be a really great reader, or I was a reader. How do you guys recruit readers? Like, how to let people say, I'd like to become one of the readers who works with you?
So Scott touched on it a little bit before. We take about, it's somewhere around 10% of applications we get.
But where are you actually placing the applications? How are people applying?
So you can email, the best place is probably just to email Mark at WeScreenplay.com with your resume and then 2 sample coverages. What I'm looking for is at least a year of experience. If it's only 1 year, it's got to be like really, really solid, exactly what we're looking for at that time experience. So ideally 2 years of experience. I'm primarily looking for people who have basically sat in that gatekeeper's chair. And so that's reading for an agency, management company, studio, or production company. who have been providing coverage either in a story room or directly as an assistant to a producer, agent, or manager. Because for most of our readers, for 75% of our readers, that's kind of the experience we look for. Because for most of our customers, that's kind of the read that they're looking for. They want to know, if I send this to a production company, is this going to get passed along? And if not, why isn't it not? Why is it not going to get passed along? However, we do have readers with a more eclectic background because we do have customers looking for different things. So we have an independent horror producer who reads for us. We have people who have worked closely as assistants to directors for 6 or 7 years. And so they haven't done quite as much script coverage on the job necessarily, but they've really seen what this particular director may be looking for when they're looking for a script. They've seen how directors read scripts. We've also had assistants to actors, and same thing, it's not quite as much coverage, although they definitely have to have done it. It's not quite as much coverage, but it's more just saying it's being able to bring to the table a kind of fresh perspective to coverage. And so if we have somebody looking for that, we're able to place it a little bit better. So mostly what I'm looking for is that gatekeeper chair. But if you have an eclectic background, that can also be great.
That's cool. That's excellent. That's actually an excellent answer. So I think what I should do is check to see if anybody's got any questions. I think I'm going to do two things. If you're listening to the call and you have any questions, you can send an email to nancy.fulton@yahoo.com. And if we have a couple of that have come on using the Q&A button on the site, and I'll go ahead and I'll ask those. So let me go ahead and ask the questions that we got through the Q&A thing. The first one is, your price point keeps demand high, and you spoke on how you vet your readers to make sure they're qualified. My question is that at such a low price point, do readers take on too many projects at once, thus forcing them to skim read or provide less than average feedback, or in order to get more cash, or is it the case that they're fast readers, so they're able to handle the workload that they've selected?
Scott, you want to take this one?
Sure. Yeah. So we pay about market rates to our readers. We're not the lowest paying in the industry. We're also not the highest paying. We would like to be, but we wouldn't be able to offer 65 notes if we paid more than everyone else. However, we do pay a fair amount. Our readers are very happy to work for us, and a lot of them have figured out packages that they are able to do better than other packages. Mm-hmm. So some have preferences for packages with a little bit more depth of the synopsis as opposed to notes, and vice versa. And they figure that out, and they sort of optimize their time around that because they're able to claim the packages and the level of detail that they want. So we haven't really had an issue with readers leaving because we're not paying them enough, or because we felt like they were skimming and not doing a good job.
Well, and also you have the ratings that that apparently your customers like it pretty well because you have a lot of repeat business, and also because you guys have statistical analysis, so you'll quickly pick up the people that are
right. The people that skim, we have a pretty good feedback loop on that, so we're able to track that, and it just doesn't really happen very often.
What's really unique, and Scott's hit on this, but what's really unique about us is we're the only coverage company that allows the readers to pick the scripts that they're going to cover. So like Scott said, they can pick the packages that they prefer. So if they prefer notes over synopsis, they can focus on that. They can also pick the genre they prefer. They see that. And they can pick it when it's great for them. So a lot of our readers work 9 to 5 on the weekdays, and then we'll only claim scripts on Fridays or Saturdays when they have some time on the weekend. Other of our readers like to do this as their main job, so they work, they claim scripts Monday through Wednesday and work throughout the week, and they take the weekends off. Because we're never assigning readers scripts, because it's always their choice, they're happy to cover it. They're picking exactly what they want to be reading, and they're picking exactly when they want to be reading. And that's kind of the big benefit we offer over everyone else when it comes to reading for us. And I think that's why, even with the massive amount of scripts coming through the system, that's kind of what keeps quality really high. and the readers really happy.
Cool. The second question we got was, so how, I think, so when I write screenplays, I really do try to keep them at 85, for 85 to 90 minutes, because, I want to do $1 to $5 million films.
Yeah.
So that tends to be my screenplay length. I think you guys have 120 pages, which is 120 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
That's about the average. That's like a long screenplay, ain't it? I mean, that's.
Yeah. So we set it at 120 because that's kind of the, that's the old Hollywood standard, right? It used to be 120 was kind of the length that was like the max length. I mean, the truth is, realistically nowadays, everyone wants to see the script under 110. If it's a one, like you said, if it's a $1 to $5 million budget, everyone wants to see 85 to 95. If it's a mid-range studio or low, a 10 to 50 studio movie, then it can be between 95 and 105, and maybe if you have a big blockbuster tentpole, 105 to 115. But screenplays, they can be 120 and can be great that way, but more and more the demand is for shorter and shorter scripts. I always take what I call a 10% pass on my screenplay after I send it to anyone, coverage, producer, anything, and that's the last thing I do is go through and try to cut out 10% of the script. Because the shorter the better. But we do take up to 120, and then anything over 120 is just $1 a page extra.
Which is fine.
120 pages at roughly a page, 1 minute per page would be a 2-hour movie, right?
Right.
So.
And I'm trying to figure out, like.
In this question, it says it would be an hour and a half. But yeah, so it's actually anything over roughly 2 hours. There is an add-on.
Yeah, and I think that's fair. I mean, it's like it's a lot to read, not a lot to take in.
Right.
So let me go ahead and check my email and just see if we've got any more questions coming in. Let's see. All right. Actually, this is a really good question, and I know we're all going to be in the industry for a long time, so we'll remember these days. So somebody asks, and it's correct. Do you have people that are conversant enough to be able to, if somebody requested coverage for faith-based pictures, that is a very specific taste, and getting the right kind of feedback, being somebody who can knowledgeably talk about a faith-based picture is a very important thing. So, and it's getting to be kind of a boom. So is that going to be one of the options that people are going to be able to ask you that you want? Is that going to be one of the special requests people can make, is I need 3 readers who can really do something meaningful with a faith-based picture?
Right now we have 2 readers with experience in faith-based film, so we can do it. It's tight. Usually if we do get the request, especially with all the success in the box office in the last 3 years with faith-based films, we've seen more and more of it. And it'll, if anybody has a year of experience in faith-based film, that would be definitely something that we're looking for. So we will be looking to expand our reader base with experience there. Scott would have to answer if that's going to be a subsection we'll create. But I think, if you have a faith-based film, email us before you submit. We can let you know the availability of our readers who have experience in that place, and we can make that happen.
Right, because it's being able to say, you've totally mangled the prodigal son. Yeah, you missed the whole point of that story. So let me go ahead and check to see the next one. Let's see. Actually, this isn't, and I think this probably varies, but she asks, for your contests, if somebody has had a script optioned, are they still allowed to submit it in order to win a contest? Or do you normally make it when people are submitting to a contest that the rights have to be available? Because you're actually sending it on to agents and production companies.
So the script can have been optioned, but it can't be currently under option. And the writer can have made more than $25,000 from writing options or sales in the last 18 months. So this is the way to make sure that we're not eliminating anybody who had success 5 or 6 years ago and is trying to get the next project going. But we're also not, we're not taking projects that are currently, being produced or under option and wouldn't be available at the end, or writers who are making a living, writing and ignore, potentially ignoring writers who are trying to break in. Since the focus of the contest is to elevate new voices in screenwriting.
That's very important, I think. And especially because you kind of provide if people join your contest and they get a fast pass into the kind of people they otherwise could not reach. That's a very valuable thing. Cool. All right. I think that pretty much covers all of the questions that I currently have. Is there anything I should have asked you that I didn't actually ask you? Like, is there any topic that you get a lot of questions about from your customers or from people who take a look at the scripts that, like when an agency gets one of your scripts or 5 or 6 of your scripts, do they have comments or suggestions or questions that they usually ask you?
I can't think of anything.
Yeah, so I think everything's been covered pretty well. What we're striving to do is make coverage more readily available and better than it's ever been through the technology that Scott's been developing for the last few years here. We've been able to introduce a lot of things. Normalization is, I know we talked about it, but it's amazing. It's really, as far as I know, we're the only contest that does it. And I'm pretty sure we're the only coverage company that does it. It's a way to actually track the progress of your script, no matter who the reader is. You can see, okay, these readers were scoring it right around the 70th percentile, and now that I've made these changes, it's in the 85th percentile. It's a really, really unique way to track progress right now there's no other way to do that from blind reads. It's also important that I think that readers are selecting the scripts. That they want to be reading. And with the contest, one cool thing with the contest, I think Scott pointed this out, but everything's transparent. So you can see the scores you're getting from the judges as they're coming in. So if you make it to the final round of WISC, which is our biggest contest, you'll get 6 different scores in there. So even though you're not getting notes necessarily every step of the way, you're seeing how the judges are perceiving it in every single category. And that's something we get asked a lot about with the contest, is what the transparency is there. And so that's kind of a unique thing that WeScreenplay offers right now.
Also, well, 2 things. First of all, I saw a question just popped up in the Q&A thing asking about short films. So we pretty soon we're going to have a feature where when you select short film as your format, it'll deduct from the $65 price for the basic coverage. Right now, we just kind of handle that on a one-off basis. So if you are submitting a short film, just shoot us an email. support@WeScreenplay.com. We'll send you back a coupon depending on how long the script is, so that you're not paying the full price for something that's otherwise meant for longer screenplays. The other thing that never came up actually was we do free first impressions. So if you go to our coverage page, you'll see actually I'm not sure if it's on our coverage page, but on our homepage you'll see a link to it where you can just submit your script. And put in your name, and within 5 days, one of our readers will read just one page and give you back a few sentences of their thoughts, just to sort of get a first impression, not only on your script, but also sort of on us. So we want you to kind of feel comfortable with us and see how we handle the whole process and transaction. And it's limited to 1 per email. 1 per user, though a few people tend to abuse it and create multiple emails, but that's okay. So if you've never tried us before, definitely feel free to give that a shot first before you commit yourself to one of the paid options. Go ahead.
One last thing I would like to say, I think there's another question that popped up. Scott, you can read that. One thing I would like to say is we're a feedback company, so we love feedback. So if you're on our website and there's a feature you'd like to see, email us. I think Nancy can attest to this. She talked to Scott about some things that she thought would be helpful for her coverage, and within a few months we were able to implement those things. So we're a feedback company, and therefore we love feedback. If you get coverage from us, you'll know within 24 hours we're asking for your feedback on the coverage. If you're on our website and you want something that you don't see is there, email us and let us know what you're looking for. That's the only way we can continue to improve the offerings and make sure they're exactly what you want, is if you let us know. So feel free to email us with whatever you're looking for, and we'll do what we can to make it happen.
I think that's, I actually can attest to the fact that you guys have made changes to the platform that they've made it a lot more valuable to me. And also, I very much look forward to being able to request specialty coverage, just because, and also when that's actually available, my intent is to let people know that, because I know people that are in the industry who do have a specific expertise, and I'd like them to be able to benefit from that. One of the things was pretty shocking is there's a billion line producers out there. A lot of them are, I don't know, line producers, man, they're miracle workers. They're crazy people. Like, they just, are like, they build little mobile armies, and then and they shoot films. Nobody dies. I think that's really cool, And they get themselves bonded. They have insurance. I mean, it's crazy, really. But the thing is that there's no way really for them there's no really way for them to get paid for their expertise in looking at a film and a film script and looking at it and saying, this thing, this is bad. Or you're spending X amount of money here and you could move it to this location and you would make a lot more. Like, why are you picking this location instead of this location? Or if you just change this one thing, or here's how. My point is that there's no way for those people to monetize that expertise. And I think that it's tragic, and I also think it's true for a lot of actors. They don't really have a way to monetize that expertise. And you guys are, by opening up the screenplay coverage and being able to ask for specific types of feedback, it's just really critical. And particularly, if you think about the number of actors, let's say on television shows, there's a lot of actors who've worked as main characters on television shows, even lead actors that carry television shows. Well, they know what a good script looks like. I guarantee you Charlie Sheen knows what a good script looks like. He's got enough money, but a lot of other people in his position that have retired don't have any way to share that expertise. And I'd like to kind of provide, I think you guys are in a position to provide that kind of feedback. There's not a lot of other people that can. There's no other place for it,
Right.
So I want to thank you very much for taking the time to speak with me tonight. And I'm going to, with your permission, I'm going to go ahead and edit this video. And I'll send you a link to it, and if you approve it, then I'll go ahead and make it available to the people who couldn't join us on the call. You had 140 people sign up, which was pretty significant. I mean, I've had up to 300, but that was for something related to funding, and that tends to be a very popular topic.
Nancy, there's one more question here. That's a pretty simple answer. If you get a first impression, the reader's analyst code is actually included in the first page of that first impression that's returned to you in your email. So you can find out who your reader is. That's
very hip. And if there's anything, so I'll go ahead and I'll edit the video. Let you see it, and then I'll make it available to people that weren't on the call. And then if there's anything I can do to make your lives better, send me off an email.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Nancy.
I hope you guys have a great evening.
Thanks, Nancy. Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.